Well, good morning. So I think we might now start this process, or we'll come indeed this European Semiotics course. I changed this into English because this will be a video film and then used for other purposes as well. So this will be in English. I hope no problem for you. And the idea in these days, so today we have this morning session, and then tomorrow we have in the afternoon, and then on Friday we have that twice. The idea is just to make you familiar with what I call European Semiotics mostly. But of course, European Semiotics is a rather broad category because it includes many issues with us beyond the Europe, I would say. But however, this concerns one tradition, one paradigm of science which has been very productive through the 20th century, namely semiotics, because as you know, semiotics became a kind of movement in the 1960s, I would say, and then get established and in academic institutions all over the world. But of course, the roots of this paradigm are going much further back in the history. But I don't go to the antiquity now to talk about Stoic philosophers, etc., and medieval semiotics, church fathers. So that's of course all within Europe. But I thought to concentrate now today. I studied mostly in France, in the French structuralism, which is structuralism is one phase of within semiotics. So that, remember, always semiotics is the big tradition of thought, and structuralism is only one phase within it. Be careful because sometimes there are confusions. Like I just read by the American John Fiske, his study. Very famous media scholar, he just the opposite. He thought that structuralism is the main thing and semiotics is the only one thing. It's totally wrong. So semiotics is the long tradition and structuralism is one phase. However, very important, I would say. So that, and by structuralism we mostly understand those scholars who became active in the 1960s, I would say, in France, also in the America, in folklore studies at the same time. And I shall focus on some big great figures which I know personally best, because and the first figure will be Lévi-Strauss, the chronology. I have here a very quite recent issue of Le Monde. I just bought it in Paris last week. This issue is very nice about this man who was academician, member of Collège de France. And, I became personally to semiotics by Lévi-Strauss and became his student when I was quite young in Paris, so that he was the first to me. And certainly he is one of the classics, so that whatsoever is your own topics, you should know something about Lévi-Strauss. It's inevitable. You cannot ignore this man who had so deep impact on the whole 20th century humanities altogether. Very important. So I start with Lévi-Strauss, and then I go to other, I shall shortly discuss with other structures, Michel Foucault, Roland Barthes, and especially in Algirdas Julia Greimas, this great Lithuanian scholar at the pictures of that, and also video here. Here you can see this man at our summer house in 1983. So, Greimas, who was founder of the so-called Paris School of Semiotics, from the mid-1960s until he's passing away, I think, in 1993, I think. But then his school continues, and it is one of the major semiotic schools in the European semiotics altogether. So that Greimas is also something which you have to know if you want to study semiotics. And then this will be the first day. Then tomorrow, maybe this will be expanded because these are big issues tomorrow. But tomorrow I'd like to go to my own recent efforts to develop a new theory I call existential semiotics. And that is certainly something very European, because the mere title tells you that I'm using very much from the German philosophy roots, from Kant, Hegel, and then of course from Kierkegaard, and then to Heidegger, Jaspers, and others. So it's all very European. And then I'm inspired by this message in order to make a new epistemology of semiotics and a new theory, which I then later applied as a musicologist, who I am, to the musical texts as well. So that will be the rest of my lecture. So that will be the whole course. And then to get the credits from this, I think maybe it will be just sufficient, I don't know, to write this a short essay, 2 pages or something like that, after this course, and then give it to me, and then I can give the credits, which I think they are 2.5, so that's short also. If you write a longer essay, you'll get even 5 credits, I would say. But then your essay must be, let's say, at least 10 pages long. So I hope that this is now clear to all of you. And this course, of course, is open for not only for students of Helsinki University, but also to the National Network University of Semiotics, which is an institution functioning in Finland and very exciting. And so I see that there are certain persons who have come from outside Helsinki as well. But because it's in English, it will be later put into Moodle program, Moodle, so that it will be useful for the whole world. Whoever wishes to hear this. Okay, so my starting point is frankly unscrupulously personal, and I think it's alright, because after all, if I think what are our theories, they are often nothing but a kind of absolutizations of our personal life and experiences, what we experience. We make them absolute, we make theories of them, but behind is also something quite concrete. And so I think we start now with this new called structuralism, but I would like to show you one diagram which is very old, and it's rather funny about this issue of semiotics altogether. I got this from an Italian review, La Comunicazione, from very early, from 1970s, I think. I got it in 1979 in the Vienna workings of semiotics, but it's a semiolinguistics subway, but it is so big that I think I can't show it all at once. Continues here. You may have a big. Is that visible? No. But the idea is that just to show that how complicated this will be semiotics altogether is, you can see here that there are this subway, it's a metaphor of course. Here are the starting stations and here are the end stations. End stations were cars alive, famous about Eco Lacan, at the time when this was published. But here you see that how complicated there are. Italian authors to distinguish 6 metro lines or semiotics. They are what they call this purple linear linguistico-economica from Karl Marx, almost there. Linear linguistico-strutturale by Saussure, who is the father of European semiotics, this great linguist who published 1916 is, as you know, his fundamental study is Cours de linguistique générale, available in all languages. Linear cybernetica from Wiener. So cybernetics. Cybernetics is a science about the systems and the regulation of systems. Cybernetics it still exists. It's a science, and you should have a vague idea because cybernetics was one factor behind semiotics, strongly supported in that direction. Then the linear semiotico-philosophica. Here they put Charles Sanders Peirce, who was American, but Peirce was American, but he was also very European. He started in the European philosophy very strongly and traveled here, but of course very important figure. Then the linear psychoanalytica. So psychoanalysis is one strong factor in the European semiotics. And you can see this slide, for instance, strongly in a scholar like here. You see Jacques Lacan and Julia Kristeva especially, whose profession is psychoanalyst, so she has the reception in Paris all the time. So, and Jacques Lacan, who passed away, but he was one of those structuralists. So, and then the last line is linear logica, logical line. I did put here the name of Wittgenstein, who may seem rather far away from the semiotics, but it's interesting. We have certain touch from Finland. Maybe you know his major student was Finnish philosopher Jori Henrik von Wright, who became his follower in Cambridge. He was a Wittgenstein higher, and Wittgenstein gave von Wright all his manuscripts to be edited. And so they were brought here to Helsinki at Virola. They were on the other side of my department, so these favorite blue and brown books edited there. So we have this. And then von Wright again, who was studying of course, very strongly in the Anglo-analytic approach, which is still alien to semiotics, I would say, frankly, developed modal logics. And the modal logic again was adapted by Greimas. So there's this interesting line. So Wittgenstein may be rather far away from here, but you see that the idea is that how very complicated issue we are talking, and we can only touch the surface here in this course. You see, here are the starting stations. You see, Marx red line. Well, there's much time. He's very Italian. You know, Italian. All Italian intellectuals are communists. It's very different to be communist in Italy than from Finland, let's say. And then Luria, Adam Schaff, Ivan was one of the names. Then we have Juri Lotman and Uspensky, but as you see, there are many other lines coming from. And here is one important in Europe is of course this green line, this linguistic, and here is Michel Breal, who was a scholar who invented semantics. And notice now the difference between semantics and semiotics. So don't make this trivial confusion. My colleagues even nowadays come very often to say that I don't understand that semantics. They mean semiotics. Semantic studies only meanings and significations, whereas semiotic studies also those signs whereby we transmit these meanings. So in semiotics we study the sign vehicles, as I say, sign vehicles, which carry the meaning. So semiotics is much broader than semantics. Semantics, and then Ferdinand de Saussure, the name I mentioned already, and you must read this classical study, Cours de linguistique générale, course on the general linguistics from 1916, which was posthumous publication by his students, because he passed away very quickly, of his lectures. And there he makes a famous prophecy about semiology. Notice semiology is the same as semiotics nowadays, so don't make this confusion. Of course, there's a slight difference in the Roman language area in Italy, and so they spoke quite late of semiology and semiology, whereas in the Anglo-Saxon word it was semiotics. Nowadays, I think it is only semiotics. However, Saussure said that in that famous study that there is such a science like semiology, no one knows what it will be, but it has its right to exist as a part of social psychology, he said. And as you know, he established many of the central notions of semiotics altogether, such things like langue de parole, so grammar and grammar system and parole, speech, and definition of the sign as signifier and signified, signifiant, signifiant. So this is a binary definition, very essential. And this idea that language is a chaotic reality as such, when we encounter the language as such, spoken or written. But immediately when we distinguish there what he calls langue, let's back down to the langue. Langue. It's okay, right? Maybe I take it from this is the langue. I try to write these names because I think that my speed is difficult. Lang parole. Language is the codified set of rules how we produce language. So we have a grammar simply. When I speak English, I have in my head there's the English grammar. And mastering this codified rule system, I can produce so-called well-formed phrases in English, and you understand them because you can decode what I say. So I'm producing parole also. So that was his fundamental idea. And then you see, if you return to this, you see that this green line is strong, this green line. Here are Roman Jakobson, here are all those Russian formalists, which I returned with Greimas because it was for Greimas important source. Roman Jakobson, Vladimir Brock, Yuri Dinyan, Ostrovsky. And then it continues Louis Janster, Danish, Matoré, Frenchman, Pullman. And ultimately, here in the middle is Levi Strauss, André Martinet, and here are the French. Here are the structuralists, Greimas, Barthes, Lacan, Christeva. So, he got his own case, I would say. And moreover, when we look at this, even Charles Darwin as what called this finding. First, what is the American line? William James, John Dewey, George Herbert Mead is the American side. Then the logical line, Frege, Piano, Wittgenstein, Bertrand Russell, John Stuart Mill, until here we have Ferruccio Rosselandi, was the Italian Noam Chomsky, like Searle, the theatre of the speech act theory, and Nelson Goodman, the philosopher. And then Freud, the accomplished art historian. So, and then one thing is Jakob See, Jakob is who represents all of this black logical line. And here also the term is the Polish philosophers, Twardowski and Batievich. And here is Husserl, who became in Semiotics very important quite recently when certain Greimas school people made a phenomenological turn with their thoughts. So in many, and also is now important. And of course, he's important also in existential semiotics. And then Milo-Ponty. Well, I only want to show this to illustrate how complicated semiotics is altogether. It's really complicated, and now we are only taking some time traces. Now let's go to this man, to whom we are so much indebted. For Levi Strauss theory is old. As you know, he passed away. He lived 100 years last year, but then he passed away, so he reached 100 years age. So it's very good to be a semiotician. But let's just quickly have a look on the biographical facts of chronology of this French publication. So, birth in Brussels 1908. He is right in the faculty of law. Sorbonne, in Paris, Sorbonne. 31 becomes goes to philosophy. He established a group of constructive revolution, which wants to renovate the party. So that's very, very French. Okay. This was 1935. He's nominated professor of sociology in the University of Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo in Brazil, so he invited there, where he makes his first studies with Caruveo and Bororo Indians. He turns 38 to Brazil, 39 he goes to France, and then the war starts. He But he's, of course, he's a Jew, he had to leave. He leaves France in 1941 for New York. Invited by Rockefeller Foundation in the famous New School for Social Research, which employed many immigrant scholars from Europe, like Roman Jakobson, for instance, and many others. They were mostly teaching each other there. But there, Levi-Strauss learned about the socio and structural linguistics, and that made him think that linguistics was the key science of humanities. So that by adopting the very rigorous methods of linguistics, the human sciences had the quality that would become real sciences. He spoke about Copernican revolution, which was thanks to the linguistics. So, also he became structuralist, basically. Washington 48, he defends his doctoral thesis, which is here, Les structures élémentaires de la parenté, so elementary structures of a parenthood. So he studies all the family structures of the whole world and compares them as one system. And especially he reflects categories of nature and culture. So nature and culture are the fundamental Levi-Straussian categories of what you call structural anthropology, I would say. And he studies the passage from nature to culture. So I think that is still extremely important category, heavily loaded by all the experience we have had since then, but fascinating. He also speaks there about the, he calls archaic illusion. Archaic illusion, which means that we compare so-called primitive cultures with our children. So we think that primitive cultures, let's say, meaning by that, Aboriginal cultures are like infantile culture. They are like we, not developed yet. It is totally wrong, because the Aboriginal thinks the same about us. They think that we are primitive. For instance, I remember my colleague Anthony Seeger, who was in Brazil, in Suya Indians, he said that if he was, for example, reading a book, so it means that he was silent and just staring at this. The Indians thought that he's crazy. He's not talking, he's only like that. So he thought that he's a primitive person, he was really reading. In their culture, it must be oral. They're communicating, talking, not just looking at something. So it's very relative. And the whole Levi-Straussian idea, in fact, is to show that all the cultures are of equal value, that they together form a huge transformation system of the human mind. And he studied he called it algebra of brain, or algebra of human mind, certain structures which existed everywhere, universally, that was inside. Then 55 is important. He publishes this book. So I showed you this famous travel description on this tropic. Which is, he portrays it here with Indians in Brazil. So it is, he has here the famous article, the Commandant Tom Ethnologue. Album comes from Ethnologue, and it is full of these pictures. And I have a DVD film, documentary film of Levi-Strauss. There are some fragments from his stay in Brazil. I hope that I can show that to you. It's very exciting. In fact, I was myself, I was so passionate with Levi-Strauss. I left for Brazil in '76 because I wanted to study these ideas from myth and music. Because we must notice that music was very important to Levi-Strauss as one science system, or privileged science system of human cultures. And he said that he would have liked to become composer himself, but he didn't become. So instead, he made of myths a kind of huge compositions of his own. And if you have read his studies, let us say, I don't have it here, but his famous theories, mythologique, the titles are coming from music altogether. And I shall return to his studies on myth and music. So, Anyway, in Brazil, of course, this I got from Brazil, it was this is just very, very, very tiny book about the Indians, I think for the schools in Brazil. But I have some maps here that I citing. So, I never left for I was supposed to go maybe. This is all part of the Brazil, it's enormous. As in Brazil is huge, so all Europe will be here with the sides. And you see that here's the neighbors here, and Sao Paulo is here. These are very strong sports. And then we meet from Sao Paulo, this area is called Mato Grosso. It's a savanna area, and the Indians were living there, and he made with the Indians studies speaking J language, and then called Bororos, but also with Kaduvio Indians, so Bororos. The place where I was supposed to go was near Xingu, here, Xingu. It's now an Indian reservation. But many tribes still in the 1970s were still not so facilitated, they were still quite wild living here. And my colleague Anthony Seeger, American, had stayed there 2 years with Suyas. And I was supposed to go there to study the flute orchestras, but in fact I never got permission to go from the Funai, which is Fondação Nacional de Índio, so it's the, so to say, protected Indians. But we know that Funai is a strange society made by the Brazilian army, and so I didn't get from some general permission to go there, but they said that there is an influence epidemic arrangement, I cannot go there, unfortunately. But I was supposed to go, but I aircraft the army from here, just to Xingu, and then studied there. So that never became reality, but I got materials, recordings from my colleague and studied there. But anyway, that is the area, but in fact, Indians of our time, who worked in all the region, and since the Levi-Strauss time, they have already escaped to the further away in Amazonas. I think I have the one map on the map photographic, I don't. Yes, this is a map on the situation. What? I studied. Oops. No. No. Yes, here are the linguistic groups, major language, Arwa, Macro-J, Tupi Indians were all. This is a situation when Brazil was discovered, so that so around 1500. So you see Indians everywhere, but then they took it to the kind of stuff, so they were only some members. But I want to tell about this just because this was so important to this semiotics altogether. This Levi-Strauss left there such a highly trained European intellectual, went to Brazil and encountered these aboriginal cultures. And the ideas which are stemming from that source were absolutely determining in many respects. So to get through his whole output to this calendar, in 1959 he was already elected to the Collège de France Academy in Social Anthropology, thanks to Maurice Medal team. He opened this laboratory on Project Social, which I did remember. 1961, so he published a book, Totémisme aujourd'hui, la pensée sauvage, the savage mind, very important, in which he launches the notion of the bricolage, or bricoleur. So bricolage means that, of course, in French language, a person who is making culture of something which is at hand. Bricolage. You know, bricolage is, if you go to Paris kiosk and you see there are magazines, bricolage, they are just how you put furniture at home, let's say. You make that is bricolage. But he thought that bricolage is the typical activity of these aboriginals, which create the culture from what they have there. So it was opposed to the scientist. So scientist wants to discover structure, and by knowing the structure he can produce events or elements. Whereas a bricoler, he has the elements, and from the elements he makes the structure. So it's other way around. So that was one of the main ideas. And then he started to publish his mythology. Mythology, 4 volumes, it's like his tetralogy, like that. 4 volumes, I don't have a copy here, but very, very important. So he studies the whole South and North American Indian mythology as one big structure only. So that's very important. And the titles are stemming from music, something like Sonata of Good Manners, L'Astronomie bien parlée, the Weltenberg Astronomy, etc. That's so. And then there's prelude and then finale. And at the end he studies the Maurice Ravel Bolero, the musical piece, and he calls it to a myth. So, so the 1902 basis. When I was in Paris in 1970s, he lectured, but he was no longer a fashionable figure at all. They were only, like you, this kind of group listening to him at first. He lectured about Parsifal, myth of Perceval, I remember, very exciting. But Michel Foucault was very much in fashion, so when Foucault was lecturing, you had to be 1 hour before to get the seat. Because he had already left structuralism and become the post-structuralist and interested in mental hospitals and prisons and such things, and that was very actual. So Foucault was quite cool. But anyway, let's go to the ideas of Levi-Strauss. And what is this structuralist movement after all? Well, one of the very famous studies is in his book from 58. This structural anthropology is a study of the Oedipus myth of Oedipus. And the idea simply, if you have seen it's coming from the music. So you see that this is in French. I'm sorry. So chaîne stand pragmatique, structure diachronique, so diachronic, so linear structure. So syntagma means the linear aspect of sounds. So when I thought I put signs one after the other, that is syntagma. In semiotics. So if you want to tell the Oedipus myth, the story, you still like this, these are the events like this. You read line by line. But the story itself has been cut into segments. This is very much coming from Vladimir Prop, a Russian journalist, from his Prop study, the morphology of folk tale, from 1928. Prop claimed that all the Russian folk tales were following one ideal repertoire and consisted of 31 so-called functions. So the idea is here that he cuts the story into functions. There are such elements like Cadmus finds his sister Europe, Cadmus kills dragon, the Sparta people kill each other. Labdacos, whose father Polius means left, what do. Okay. Oedipus kills his father Laios. Laios means somehow crippled, so left. Oedipus and Sphinx. Oedipus kills the Spanish. Oedipus means that his legs have been. So here are persons who are somehow crippled or invalids. Oedipus thought that his legs were young baby were bound together, so he was supposed to be killed because it was a prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. In order to avoid that, he was done, so he became a Pierre Anglais. Then Oedipus marries Jocasta, his mother, Eteocles, who is son of Oedipus and Polyneia, they killed each other. Antigone was their daughter, raised Polyneia against the tradition, and so. So you see that the whole mythical story is cut into pieces and reordered in a certain way, so that the structure reveals the deeper anthropological meaning of the story, simply. And you see that the idea that there are 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they are, you could hear the 2 overestimated family relations, let's say Oedipus Augusta and these sisterhood relations, underestimated 2 weak parenthood, so that they killed each other. You know. And here are, they are killing the monsters, dragon or sphinx, and here non-proper level climbing difficulty are much shaped to us, so that they are persons who have difficulties to walk. And that is linked with the mythology of antiquity that the people have been born from the earth. And when they come from the earth, they have these difficulties to do much. So the whole myth is a story about how people come to the world. Whether they come from the earth, that's from there, or whether they come from the union of 2 persons. So this is a logical tool, the myth and the people to deal with this problem of the origin of man, so to say. And now you see that you have one reading is like musical score, namely you read all the parts like this simultaneously, like as if this were a score, you know. If you have, let's say, Beethoven symphony, all the instruments, wind instruments, strings, and so, you read the score like this, not like this line by line. If you read line by line, then the idea is destroyed. So the whole myth becomes like music. So it's rather fascinating. But he had other ideas, as I mentioned. This is, we don't have camera here, I'm sorry. But this is the whole mythology ends with analysis of Maurice Ravel, Bolero. You know, this is the famous piece. And here is the melody of the Bolero. You know that it's a piece which starts with only one instrument, then the other joins. In between you have this drumming, and then there is a crescendo, with all the time increasing the volume. More and more instruments join, and at the end you have the whole orchestra. That's the magic power of Bolero is based on that crescendo idea, so it's huge. But Levi-Strauss finds this type of structure. He claims that this piece, which is a linear process of growth, I would say, it has this kind of binary structure, namely, here we have theme and answer, counter subject and counter answer. They are coming from the terms of fugue. You know, it's kind of fugue, fuga, whatever. Fugue it has been flattened in one level. So this is very French, very sophisticated, I understand things like that. So it's of course, if you have musicologist, you couldn't think that it could be a fugue. Because you have a fugue, the parts are simultaneous and they are like escaping each other. But then you start thinking that these parts of fugue have been put in one line only. So it's a fugue system. And these themes are opposed. So here we have theme 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and then come to the other type of themes, counter subject, Arabian one, and so. And then you return. So it is, the whole piece oscillates between this binary opposition. And all the time, the range of the orchestra increases, crescendo. And at the end, when you can't join any instrument any longer, the whole orchestra is there, fortissimo. Then takes place modulation. So you change the key. So that is the solution which the musical piece and mythical story must give to the listener. So he thinks that the myth and music are like logical tools to find a solution for some problem. Every musical piece has a problem, and then you look how it is solved in the time. Every myth also has a problem, and then it's, you see how it is solved. So he makes it interesting parallel, and No. Now, you can ask, why happens he wants to claim that Robert Boyle is a fugue? But he supports this argument with the idea that it's linked with the European cultural history, namely that he thinks that fugue is a structure of human mind which has always existed. Indians discovered it thousands of years ago, in Brazil, for instance. We in Europe discovered fugue only in the 17th century, in baroque music time. And here in Europe, fugue was discovered because the mythological thought was disappeared thanks to Descartes. Descartes who invented the scientific spirit, rationality. So he destroyed the idea of mythical thought. And then the mythical heritage was shared by two other mental activities, namely literature heritage, the narrative or myth, and novel emerged. Not by Semiotics, for instance. Novel as a story. So literature heritage the narrative is content. Music heritage the structure of myth by fugue. So we have novel and fugue. So these two genres as heritage. Still you might ask that, why then he wants to claim that, why they have this binarism, you know? The binarism is very typical of structuralism altogether. So, you know that in structural linguistics, they think that the language phonetics is based in the so-called distinctive features, three distinctive, which are just binary oppositions. Let's say, very trivial example is P, B. Yeah, P and B. P is voiceless, B is voiced, consonant. That is a distinctive feature in French language. For instance, I write pas and pas. Pas is, let's say, je ne suis pas pour le pas. Ba is love. You see, here are two words. The only difference is here. Otherwise, similar, but this is difference. P, if I change P into B, you see that the meaning of the word changes. Different meaning. So, this was called by Roland Barthes, this kind of test as a commutation test. You test what are the elementary, the structural elements of certain language by commuting these elements and looking whether it, let's say in music, I make it very, very trivial. It is very analogous, very simple. Two chords, C major, C minor. Two chords, they have three notes each. The one difference is here, major triad, here we have the minor triad. If I change major into minor triad, minor third, should be third, then the meaning of the chord changes. It becomes from the cheerful into sorrowful, from major to minor. So this means, in the Western tonal music, major third, this minor third, is a distinctive feature. You can apply it to this whatsoever sign system. In visual area, let's say, you take colors and then the meaning changes, rhythms, whatsoever. So, anyway, so this idea of binaries is very strongly rooted in instructions idea that, because they thought that language is the origin of all culture. Later this was called kind of linguistic imperialism, because they thought that linguistic structure dominate also other science systems because by language we get acculturated, we learn by language of culture, language is par excellence, etc. So they thought so. And this meant that we could apply these binary rules for language to also to, let's say, in the whole human culture, nature versus culture, life, death, high, low. So culture is full of dark night, light, day, night. So culture is full of these binary positions, and that was the Levi's culture, and that may be one reason why he thought that such structure would be in the base of Ravel's Bolero, which opposed his very complicated musical piece of our culture. The other reason which I personally thought is here, namely, this is a drawing with a schema classic of the Bororo village in Brazil. You know, it is Bororo village, the houses or huts are put in a circle, and there are two clans. Clan 1, so, and they call themselves by animals, let's say, there are pumas and jaguars, let's say. That is totemism. You use the animal classes to classify human culture. So. And there are strict rules how you communicate, so that if a young man marries a girl from the young man from pumas marries a girl from the jaguars, then the young man must move on that side to live there, and he can never return back to the other side. And so there is this violent oscillation between these two clans, and this reaches even the symbolic forms of culture, so that they, like music, they have common fests in the middle in which they sing to their sisters, so that the young men, they sing their songs so that their former sisters will hear them from that side. And that gives praise to a musical designer called Akias by Semiotics, which I studied. I hear, by the way, one video by this American anthropologist who's very important name. Seeger. I don't see here. I must say, this is his life work. It's here. He then filmed one Suya ritual from the morning all day with the video cameras. If you have time, I think at the end of this speech we can have a look on this. It's fantastic, really. But the Western culture is truly, because when he brought the video cameras, the Indians learned to use them very quickly. So they started to film themselves and try to improve their rituals, which were 1,000 years old. It was very funny for them, so don't underestimate. So you'll see it in this film. It's very funny. Anyway, so I would say that when Lévi-Strauss realized as an anthropologist this binary structure of the Bororo village, he thought that something universal, and then, of course, because suppose that it appears even in the European culture. So he made this analogy, and you could see it in others as well about the same type of structure. Now, so then, of course, how Lévi-Strauss structures and how we could situate it into. He made a lot of other analyses. You have to remember when you go back to the origins, if you go back to philosophy now, you might hear one interesting study by Alzheimer's, l'histoire du structuralisme. But there is a funny one. There are two volumes. First one is Le Champ du Signe. So it means the domain of sign. 45. And the second volume which I would have is entitled Le Champ du Signe. But you write it like this. Le Chant du Signe means the swan song, the end, the auxiliary. If I say the Chant du Signe, it means phonetically the same. The Chant du Signe is a domain of science, semiotics. But the Chant du Signe is swan song. It's a pun. But anyway, François just discussed this just in how Lévi-Strauss's structures then later influenced, and interesting for me later has been just that how the previous paradigm of existentialism had to disappear. So Jean-Paul Sartre, the famous philosopher, namely published his famous Dialectique de la raison, critique de la raison dialectique, a very, very thick volume. Just at the time when Levi-Strauss was already coming very strongly, and we had a dialogue. There is Sartre called the Semiotics. There are some pictures of the famous Roman Jakobson, Levi-Strauss again, Williams, Jean Piaget from the so-called generic structure, who studies just the development of mental structures, their genesis in psychology. Yes, but I have. Yes, this is history. But Levi-Strauss Sartre. Can you see? So he said that la pensée sauvage constitutes one of the rare moments in which one idea figura demanda la sua irreversibilità, sua capacità a trasformare la visione del mondo des autres. In this central work of Patrick Larsen, the Levi-Straussian structuralist disposition gets installed against Sartre. It's a real answer to the critique de la raison dialectique, which was one of the major papers by Sartre. And they discuss namely what is the role of history. Because now the structuralism was often accused that it is anti-historic, that it studies all these achronic structures without paying attention to how structures change in the history. Let's say, and they had a debate whether the native cultures have history or not. L'histoire n'est pas autre chose qu'un récit condamné à l'idéographie. History is nothing but a story. Levi-Strauss said about Sartre that in the Sartrean system, history plays exactly the role of a myth. And so Levi-Strauss doesn't understand how philosophers and Sartre in their head they obstinately give such a meaning for history. This fascination is condemned by Levi-Strauss as an effort to restituer un contenu temporel collectif pour contrôler la démarche de l'ethnologue qui se déploie dans la discontinuité spatiale. So it's an effort to create a temporal continuity against the ethnological experience of the spatial discontinuity. À l'histoire identifiée à l'humanité, Levi-Strauss propose la pensée sauvage comme intemporelle. Against the mankind's history, Levi-Strauss opposes the savage mind, pensée sauvage, which is intemporel, atemporal, saisi du monde dans une totalité retrouvée mais au plan synchronique. Levi-Strauss, Pierre explained studies what Levi-Strauss called a tentation lineante. Levi-Strauss called the temptation of the nothingness. You know that Sartre had published a book for the L'être lineante, being and nothingness, is reference to Sartre. So Levi-Strauss gave the Sartre philosophy the kind of status for the myth, so it was not real philosophy, it was just mythological thought. That's very, so he really condemned. But on the other hand, if you read Sartre, he says another positive about Levi-Strauss in his book. But that was a clear demarcation that then existentialism had to give way to structuralism, which was totally anti-humanist and anti-subjective movement. He didn't give any value to such a role of the subject, for instance. The subject was mere illusion, absolutely, for structuralism. The only thing was the system, line, grammar. Jacques Lacan said that in psychoanalysis it is the subconscious and its structure who is talking, not man as a subject. He said ça parle, so it is talking, not the man. So it was very and we had to wait for decades before the notion of subject was re-evaluated and brought back to semiotics, but it was very easy. So that is important. I have here another interesting study which I was by this Canadian, the Lehman University, the structuralism and Levi-Strauss. This is the philosophical study of how Levi-Strauss's thought and its philosophical basis. And he discusses just he discusses all the most important aspects of these origin in the, you see, background in Henri Bergson's philosophy, the trois maîtresses, the three lovers, geology, Marxism, and psychoanalysis. You know the story. Why Levi-Strauss thought that he loved geology, Marx, and psychoanalysis? Because they all, what is common, they all thought that reality is based on structures which are superimposed. So there is a surface and then there is a deep structure. And the surface is stemming from the deep structure. In geology, you follow the earth, the levels. Let's say in archaeology, you discover the levels. And then in Marxism, you think that there is the superclass, there is the superstructure, ideology, which is stemming from the economic structure, which is absolutely determining. And then Freud thought that there is the conscious, which is only illusory, the subconscious, which is determining. And only when you make some mistake, then you reveal your subconscious. So these mistakes are important as signs of subconscious. Anyway, Levi-Strauss thought that that was original structuralism. Then there is about what is this structural method and all the notions of that. It's only one of these. There are many books. This is semiotics. The term semiotics as such appears rather seldom in Levi-Strauss, I would say. He says that in mythology, when he studies certain myths about honey and ashes. So ash, it is when you burn something, you get ash. So like tobacco, when you smoke, you get ash. So he studies the myth about origin of honey representing the happy primary state of mankind, lost paradise, and ash symbolizing the decline of mankind, smoking. So, and then he thinks that these concrete qualities like honey or ash, they become semiology, science, when they express something else than what they are. So if you go beyond it, that sensual category, and you have this very important Levi-Straussian categories, le sensible ou concret. Is what logic du concret, so logical concret, or intelligible. Absolutely. So he said that human mind operates within this big dichotomy, either in the sensible, concrete, phenomenal qualities, or the intelligible, the intellectual, abstract things. That's very important distinction altogether in this philosophy. So then we have the structural method. This is very good study after all philosophy. Now here, what is the structuralist philosophy? It's a materialist idealism, réduction de la culture à la nature, assimilation de l'esprit à la matière, anti-humanism. Is it a new humanism? No. And then here, how is it anti-humanism? Reduction of the individual to an impersonal collective. Reduction of conscious to the unconscious categories. Reduction of the consciousness into a subconscious phenomenon combinatorius as a combinatory. It's a combination of elements from which creative activity of subject and historicity are eliminated. So that's very important. So subject is not creative at all. We are only repeating, we are only intersection of certain systems. And then neither do we have any history. So think about that. I think it's very interesting because the world in which we culturally now this globalization, I think it is a kind of huge synchronization of the whole, a loss of history. And we are all living in this over real time with these electronic things. We see messages also, the synchrony and all disappears, so we are very much getting to the world which Levi-Strauss portrayed just as a theoretical possibility, I would say. So that's exciting. Then, sorry. Yes?
How did actually Levi-Strauss define myths and its relation to culture, human culture?
It's very difficult. Well, there is this very famous diagram about, sorry, it's here in Finnish, but language consists of songs and sounds, you know, sound and sense, like sign has signified. It's in Finnish. So that is language. The language is the origin. Then two activities, the mythology and myth. Myth adopts only the sense from language and gets lost by sound. This means that I can tell the story of Oedipus in whatsoever language, in Finnish, in French, and the story remains the same. So sound is not important. Music, whereas adapted for language, only the sound and ignore the sense. He said that la musique c'est le langage moins le sens. Music is language without sense. Now, by this Levi-Strauss joins the very old European musical aesthetics history, like the German Hansik theory that music is tönend, bewegte Formen. Music is tönend, bewegte Formen. The music is only orally moving moving sound forms and nothing. So there are no meanings whatsoever in music. There's only pure sound. So Levi-Strauss comes to this. But because we know that music is coming from language, when we go to a concert, let's say a symphony concert, we hear an absolute musical piece. We have an irresistible need to join there some kind of meanings, as if it were a kind of deficient language. When you go, let's say, this is Sibelius' Second Symphony. If you are Finnish, that portrays the struggle of Finland to the independence. That was very common thought in the first performance. Although Sibelius himself denied that strongly, I never thought anything like that. But we put that meaning there because we think that it's a kind of language, this symphony, which only it misses the sense. So, and then there's mathematics whose role is theory, because it has neither sense nor sound. But this is of course. But yes, what is the risk of myth to the reality of how it's
relation to culture?
Culture. So certainly, Levi-Strauss thinks that by myths we get conscious of the social roots of our being. Whereas by music we get conscious of our physiological, our body, our bodily existence. Because music operates with body very strongly, rhythm and sound. But by telling the mythical stories, we get assimilated to the culture. It's a little bit the Kalevala stories, and they have some essential meaning for Finns. If you are in Germany, maybe they may dingle in a ring, and maybe in Italy they go under for the other. So
represent the culture.
Represents.
Oh.
Yes, but the word represent is interesting. It's very heavily loaded, what it is to represent. So, but well, that's a good idea to say represent, because we have two words, to represent and to signify. You know? they are very close to each other, but they are not the same. I would say that the representation is really on the cultural level. So that this American philosopher John Dewey who said that the concepts represent, but words signify. So signification is on the word level. Let's say I have here, what's the word? Let's say the word hearing language. It signifies language. But then, of course, as a concept, it represents a certain category of human mind. So there are different levels. And so when we say that the myth, it's good to say that myth represent culture because the relation is vague. I would say it's more not so concrete. And you need to make this complicated structural analysis to get into the essence of how the myth represents culture, like the English myth. So you know, it's very complicated. I wouldn't say it's very French, but I must tell you that I discovered a very interesting analogy just recently. I studied the French Baroque culture, and I studied also the original novel in French classicism in the early 17th century, and I got to these famous ladies who wrote novels. A person called Madeleine Scuderie. And these salons. Madeleine Scuderie wrote the biggest novel ever written, named Grand Cyrus. It appeared about, I think, 1645 or something. It has 10,000 pages. Well, the pages were at that time smaller than now, so the reality as a normal book like about 7,300 pages. You can get it by internet. But I started to read. I'm now on page 325. So it remains still 6,000 pages. Anyway, that merged in around 16, just in the age when Levi-Strauss says the fugue was invented in music, and novel emerged well earlier in Spain, but also in France. But now, this Madame Scuderie, she established salons in Paris, who they were called in French précieuses. Précieuse signifies in Finnish sielistelevä. But in English, I don't know if it's just the precious, because precious means also valuable, but précieuse, it means a certain language which is very complicated. And so they had their langue précieuse, in which you could never express anything directly. That would be very vulgar. You must always use metaphors. So the language became extremely sophisticated chain of metaphors, and you never say how things. There are many funny examples, like let's say la communauté de conversation. It was a commodity of conversation. Legs were the chairs of front, the dear sufferers, because they had to carry your body. So you never said anything, you use this kind of precious language. And Molière, ironized this by his famous comedy. Really seriously good. Well, I think that this is very analogous to semiotics. I think Umberto Eco was once said that semiotics is a method to make simple things complicated. Simply. So you never say directly, you never use the ordinary language, but you must have some fine terminology like signifier and structure, lang, role, code, message, isotopy, theme, etc. Some very, very difficult and complicated. This is a factor which makes some people think that semiotics is nonsense, because it's making just simple things difficult. But I find it's an analogy to Madame Scuderie, who was a very brave lady, and who was quite, it was not at all to be mocked or criticized or ironized, her effort to create such a language, which was very elegant. And I think this is an analogy. Anyway, we must also, let's say, yes, we have to go continue with it. We have some more coffee cups. We have a cafeteria inside, so we have a coffee, let's say, in 15 minutes. But let me tell you, well, you may have already this crazy series of this crazy English series, very British. It's introduced in the author of this great books about everything about he also has, by the way, Semiotics. I have not seen it, but it's written by Paul Comrie from London. But he is quite serious man. But it is this series not because it tried to make the and it's funny that this postmodernism issue has named just the structuralism, and if you just I don't know if you have seen this. This is much about the later here it is, what it does. So the genealogy of postmodern theory. So now semiotics is seen as something prepared in postmodern thought. So I would say postmodern is another issue that I think it has passed away already. That's why we are no longer in postmodern, we are something neo. But postmodernism came in the 1980s and 90s as a reaction against structuralism, and it's very one-sided being listed. But you know, this is a very, very popularizing book. So, here is structuralism. So this is the trivializing, of course, of this. So, Saussure, Lange, Parole, synchronic, diachronic. The only way is to separate families as a system. It's very trivial. Signification. So there is the signifier and signified. Very often they are symbolized with this. The signifier is the line, and so signified is like hidden under it somehow. So it's looming there behind the signifier. The signification are looming behind there. Here's about the arbitrary. So you know this relationship is said to be arbitrary. So it is arbitrary which sign signifies which some signify. It's not the opposite case would be it would be iconographic. It would be similar, like in onomatopoeic expression. If I say I, it means not that I'm perfect. So it's onomatopoeic, or as a cuckoo. It's onomatopoeic. So it means that the signifier is motivated by the signifier. But this is not ordinary language. All the words are totally arbitrary. These phonemes we are using. But this is complicated. This iconographic versus conventional things. Binary is terrible. Semiology. They still say semiology. Semiology from the Greek semeion, mark, sign, place, or tone. So Saussure is under menu. Okay. Now comes the result. Structural anthropology is at this time in the 1950s, the binary code had been applied in cybernetics and the rapid development of digital computers. So that was absolute one behind structure was computers operated with 0 or 1 binary choices. So it was behind this. So Levi-Strauss is supposed to say anthropology is a cultural model for understanding how the human mind universally functions. This traditional Eurocentric view is misleading. Totemism is not some bizarre primitive superstition, but a basic principle of logic is thinking. At least critical structuralism formalizing the human. Then comes, then we come to this other. So, Roland Barthes, lived in 1915-18. Roland Barthes was structuralist only at the beginning of his career. But I remember when he turned into post-structuralist, because around 75 or something, he published his book, The Plaisir du Texte, The Pleasure of Text. And there he certainly turned back to the formal semiotic method, of which, by the way, I recommend that you read his book, Elements of Semiology. It's fascinating, tiny book, published also in English by Cape Edition. So he determines some very classical, the basic notions of semiotics. Read that. But then, after all, he was a writer. He was a writer more than a scientist, I would say. But now, Barthes is extremely fashionable. I just bought from Paris, maybe, a huge book of that. It is a new version of his book, Mythology. You know, he published a book called Mythology, not mythologique, like Lewis was, but Mythology. It was studies of modern myths that say we are living, the mythical thoughts have not disappeared. Myth exists in advertising, in marketing, in cinema, in sports, in architecture, in everything. And this is an illustrated version. They put pictures about all of this. This is not, I don't read that, but it's rather funny. Edition illustrée, but of course these pictures were not very there. I met him in an interview when I was a student. I met him twice. I say he was a very nice person. He was very elegant. He could play piano also, so he wrote. He had nice hands, I remember. And he published about music some interest. Like in this Mythology, his famous essay on Gérard Sauzet, great French baritone, and especially the famous essay in English, The Grain of the Voice. You never heard about that. It has been much quoted later. The grain of the voice. Le grain de la voix. The grain of the voice. Because he has the idea that there are two types of song, namely tenor song and tenor song. The grain de la voix. It is very difficult to translate it into Finnish. Actually, it is untranslatable. The grain is, of course, in Finnish, jyvä. But it has been translated with the ään in Rosso, because it means that there is tenor song is when you sing very culturally. Let's say you try to make the words heard, understood, and you have a high style, etc. It's tenor song. But tenor song is another type of song in which your body is singing. So that when you sing, then your body is heard, your muscles, your tension, your heartbeat, your lungs. That is tenor song. So the grain of the voice is just the general aspect. Well, Barthes meant this, this is coming from Julia Kristeva, because Julia Kristeva spoke about genotext and phenotext on the texture of the basic model of this book is very simple. I wonder if I have it here. Was that here? Oh, here it is. Very good. This is a huge one. But he studies, let's say, Greta Garbo, Parisian demonstrations, full astrology, magazines, women magazines, automobiles, cars, as the advertising. So Roland Barthes is really classic. Okay, but here is his theoretical model of the So you see that this is the structure of modern myths. You see, here we have the line, the first type of sign has Semiotics, and then Semiotics. That is the first category of signs. Let's say that can be whatsoever. It can be whatsoever behavior, let's say menu, some food, advertising, film star, some singer, whatsoever. It is the first order sign. But then comes the mythical thought which grasps this first order sign and subordinates it into its significant. You see? And then adds there, we put beyond the port. There is a signifier and provides it with a new signifier from this new mythological source. And they together form a mythical significant of the modern myth. I'm very sure not like this. Obviously. That is the structure. And this new myth was for part the same as the bourgeois culture. So whole French structure was very iconoclastic, so they were trying to destroy sort of bourgeois mythology. They were intellectually against the bourgeois culture. So they thought that bourgeois culture, by these myths of advertising, they just keep manipulate people, and by revealing the structure, we can get rid of that. So there was this kind of emancipatory aspect in structures altogether as well, I would say. So Roland Barthes wrote many things, but he remained very fashionable in the American scene, in the United States. He's still very, and in Paris also, because he gave up his structures, semiotics. Another person who is very important is of course Michel Foucault from this. Michel Foucault. Always I have here, but there is a very theory in post-modern anthropology. Foucault is mentioned here. Foucault is still fashionable in America. So that almost in whatsoever field of human science they make quotations from Foucault's study. Foucault in 1926, before we haven't finished rather much of thing. So he studied first what we call archaeology of knowledge, so the very deep epistemic structures, he called epistemes of our culture, which are such kind of principles or units on very deep in our culture, which determine all the search, the epistemes. And his classical study the criteria of epistemes can be defined through what or whom they exclude from this concept. In the case of modernity, the man, the sick, and the criminal. And this was already the later Foucault, in which he saying that it is exclusion which is used, but in his power. So these questions such as like repression, power, etc., all these come very. But his most best-known study from the structuralist period is certainly the more or less shows. So I have here as an English version, which is classical studies. Then archaeology of the human sciences. So it's very deep study of from the classical age, let's say from the 16th century to the modern time of various sciences and their development, reflecting and especially exciting here, you see the contents, the approach of the word representing, speaking, for linguistics, classifying, exchanging, so commerce, exchanging, units of representation, labor, life, language, and then the human science. So, very fascinating is just the beginning, because this starts with he's interested in the problem of change. Here he says, the problem of change, it has been said that this word denies the very possibility of change. In fact, two things in particular struck me. The suddenness and thoroughness with which certain sciences were sometimes reorganized. So certain sciences, they just reorganize themselves very, very quickly. So new paradigm emerges. And change is that changes that will not occur at the same level. The way in which, in a particular science, new propositions were produced, in fact isolated, did not follow the same model as the appearance of new fields of study. But the appearance of new fields of study must not in Germany conflict with those overall redistributions that alter not only general form of science, but also its relations with other areas of knowledge. So it is about science history, but the main thing here so the more he studied the order of things that when you study. This order is at one and the same time that which is given in things as the inner law, the hidden network that determines the way they confront one another, and also that which has no existence except in the dream created by the glance of examination in language. No. Now, this archaeological inquiry has revealed two great discontinuities in the episteme of Western culture. The first inaugurates the classical age, roughly halfway through the 17th century, and the second begins the 19th century, beginning of the modern age. So he thinks that there's just a big gap there. And then starts this very famous study, he studies one painting by Velázquez, which is this one. It's very colorful. You may all know this famous painting. So he studies this in Prague by Velázquez Las Minas. You know, the painting portrays the scene in which the Infanta, the princess, has come and reached the scene in which the painter himself is here canvas, is painting the queen and king, which are here in the place in which we are spectating, looking at the picture. So they are outside the picture. But the queen and king can be seen represented here in the mirror behind. They are here. So those, and then he studies, he makes an interesting structuralist analysis, so that he studies the mere structure of the representation in his painting, and then he makes conclusions from that structure. So he thinks that there are, for instance, there is this kind of elliptic form, ellipse, like this, and this ellipse reaches even us who are beyond the picture. Ellipse is in the Dark culture one of the basic structures which manifests in music and opera and everything. So ellipse, definitely. And if you look at what he says here, what is representation? He says there are thus there are just two centers around which the picture can be organized. It's only whether the attention of the spectator decides to settle in this place or in that. In that, it is the princess who is superimposed on the mirror. Vertically, it is the reflection that is superimposed on the face. From each of them, there are extensions in the lateral line. The line is viewing from the mirror approaches the whole of the left presented. And then he asks him, what is the spectacle? What are the faces that are reflected first of all in the nets of the infant's eyes, then in the dark portraits of painters, and finally in the distant glow of the mirrors? The entire picture is looking out at a scene for which it is itself a scene. Well, that's very fascinating. It is a representation of representation. Like theater is always communication and communication. Ivo was also very much said. So, and now I mentioned this, you should read it. I have it in Finnish. I translated it once in Finnish, but it has not been published. Or maybe it has appeared in Finnish as well. But it's very typical because if you encounter such a structuralist study of a text, artwork, literature, painting, music, it always tries to start like a 0 point, which is totally neutral, and by looking at the mere structure first. And then later, it is thought that the structure is meaningful. And then you try to interpret and analyze the meaning from the structure. But first we have only the structure, pure structure. Very similar, by the way, is another type of literature, is this very famous study by Levi-Strauss and Jakobson on Charles Baudelaire's sonnet Les Chats, you know, the very famous, or the cats. It's here. This is published in English, this structuralism reader. There are a lot of such readers in English language available. This is Les Chats. You know, this famous Baudelaire about cats. Les amoureux errants, les savants, stèrent évidemment dans la mi-saison. Le chat qui sort du jour, comme Dieu de la maison, qui, comme Dieu, sont fidèles, comme Dieu est sédenté. So the fervent lovers and the austere scholars like equally in their ripe season powerful and sweet cats, which are the pride of the house, and which are like the lovers cold, and like the scholars, they sip all this. So this is a metaphor of how cats are just completely. And then, so amis de la science et de la volonté. So they are the friends for the science and volonté. Okay. But then the study starts with the very strict phonetic level observations, how these are vowels appear. So it's totally without any meaning first. It starts with phonetics, which is supposed to be almost like and then austere, ténèbres, so there are magic mystics. So words which are saison, maison, or so there are what they call rhymes. And then they move to the higher level of the syntax and metrics and syntax. And then ultimately, only at the end comes the interpretation. So it's very, that is very typically structuralist study. And here is the result is put in the diagram. So these are the verses: extrinsic, intrinsic, empirical, mythological, real, unreal, surreal. So interpretation comes only at the end of this. Now, I did myself read my books in Finnish, one study by Eeva Zamani, Finnish poets, and then later by Kari Marmo. I applied the same method in the Finnish poem, but you can do yourself exercises. But this is very, I show only a typical structured method of studies. All right, I think that we need some coffee to refresh. It's very dark there. So we make a small pause and then we can go to Greimas. I'd like to show you all these videos on this class as well.